A millionaire offered his jacket to a beggar girl who was shivering at the bus stop. When he found out why she had been abandoned and who her mother was, he was shocked. If this story interested you, subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to like this video and tell us which city you're watching us from. We'll keep going. The relentless Seattle rain painted the city in shades of gray, transforming the bustling streets into a blur of umbrellas and hurried footsteps. Alexander Sterling watched the scene unfold from the back seat of his Mercedes, his mind preoccupied with the upcoming board meeting that would determine the future of Sterling Enterprises. 20 years of strategic decisions had built his empire, but today's merger could be his legacy's cornerstone. His driver navigated through the morning traffic with practiced ease, while Alexander reviewed the latest projections on his tablet. The numbers were promising. This deal would solidify Sterling Enterprises' position as the leading technology innovator on the West Coast. Yet something felt hollow about it all, a sentiment he'd been trying to ignore for months. The car slowed to a stop at a red light, and that's when he saw her. A young girl, no more than 12, huddled against the bus stop's glass partition. Her dark hair hung in wet strands around her face, and her thin jacket offered little protection against the bitter morning chill. She wasn't begging or seeking attention, just sitting there, invisible to the rushing crowds around her. Alexander couldn't explain what made him look twice. Perhaps it was the way she held herself, knees drawn up to her chest, or the familiar curve of her chin. Something about her struck a chord deep within him, echoing memories he'd locked away years ago. "Parker, pull over," he instructed his driver, his voice barely above a whisper. The driver complied, guiding the vehicle to the curb. Alexander stepped out into the rain, his Italian leather shoes splashing in puddles as he approached the bus stop. The girl looked up, startled by his presence. Their eyes met, and Alexander felt the world shift beneath his feet. Those eyes. He knew those eyes. They were the same shade of amber as Claire's, his first wife, the woman who had disappeared without a trace 2 decades ago. The coincidence was impossible to ignore. "Are you all right?" he asked, removing his cashmere coat and holding it out to her. The girl hesitated, studying him with a wariness that spoke of hard-learned lessons. "I'm fine," she murmured, but her trembling body betrayed her words. "What's your name?" Alexander asked gently, still holding out the coat. She wrapped her arms tighter around herself, considering her response. Finally, in a voice barely audible above the rain, she answered, "Aurora." The name hit Alexander like a physical blow. Aurora, the name he and Claire had chosen together during long nights of dreaming about their future family, before everything fell apart. Before she vanished. "Aurora," he repeated, the name foreign yet familiar on his tongue. "Please take the coat, you're shivering." She reached out slowly, accepting his offering with trembling fingers. As she wrapped the oversized coat around her shoulders, Alexander noticed the worn state of her clothes, the slight hollowness in her cheeks. "When was the last time you ate?" he asked, keeping his voice neutral, non-threatening. Aurora's eyes darted to the ground. "Yesterday morning," she admitted reluctantly. Alexander made a decision then, one that would alter the course of both their lives. "There's a diner around the corner. Would you join me for breakfast?" She studied him again, weighing her options. The street was busy, the diner public. Perhaps that's what convinced her to nod slowly. "Parker," Alexander called to his driver, who had been watching vigilantly. "Please inform the board I'll be delayed this morning." As they walked toward the diner, Alexander maintained a respectful distance, his mind racing with possibilities. The timing, the name, those eyes. It couldn't all be coincidence. But he kept his questions in check, focusing instead on the immediate need to help this child who seemed to have stepped out of his past. What he didn't know then was that this chance encounter would unravel a web of secrets that had been carefully maintained for over 20 years. The merger, his empire, the carefully constructed walls around his heart. Everything was about to change, starting with a simple act of kindness on a rainy Seattle morning. The diner's warmth enveloped them as they stepped inside, the smell of coffee and pancakes a stark contrast to the dreary morning outside. Alexander guided Aurora to a corner booth, away from the curious glances of other patrons. She slid into the vinyl seat, still wrapped in his oversized coat. looking even smaller in its folds. "Order whatever you'd like," Alexander said, passing her a menu. He noticed how her eyes widened at the prices, quickly turning to the side dishes section. "Just toast is fine," she mumbled, but Alexander shook his head. "The blueberry pancakes here are excellent," he suggested, "and their hot chocolate is the best in Seattle." When the waitress arrived, he ordered a full breakfast for each of them. Pancakes, eggs, bacon, and hot chocolate for Aurora, coffee for himself. As they waited, he observed her carefully, noting every detail that reminded him of Claire. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear, the slight furrow between her brows when she was thinking. "Do you have somewhere to stay?" he asked finally, keeping his tone casual. Aurora tensed, her fingers playing with the corner of a paper napkin. "I used to live with my grandmother," she said after a long pause. "But she's gone now." "Gone?" Alexander prompted gently. "She got sick, really sick. The doctors couldn't help her." Aurora's voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed her pain. "That was 3 weeks ago." The waitress arrived with their food, providing a momentary distraction. Alexander watched as Aurora tried to maintain her composure, while clearly fighting the urge to devour the pancakes in front of her. "It's okay," he said softly. "Take your time, but eat as much as you need." As she ate, Alexander's mind raced. The timing couldn't be coincidental. Claire had disappeared 20 years ago, and here was a 12-year-old girl with her eyes and the name they'd chosen together. But he needed to be careful, methodical. One wrong move could send Aurora running. "What was your grandmother's name?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "Margaret," Aurora replied between bites of pancake. "Margaret Chen." Alexander's coffee cup froze halfway to his lips. Chen, Claire's maiden name. The pieces were falling into place with dizzying speed, but he forced himself to remain calm. "And your mother?" he asked, his heart pounding. Aurora's fork clattered against her plate. "I never knew her," she said, her voice suddenly distant. "Grandma said she got very sick when I was a baby. She didn't want to talk about it much." Alexander's world tilted. On its axis, Claire had been sick, had she? Or was that the story Margaret had constructed to explain her absence? "Aurora," he began carefully, "would you trust me enough to let me help you? Not just with breakfast, but with finding a safe place to stay." She studied him with those familiar amber eyes, weighing his words. "Why would you want to help me?" "Because no child should be alone," he answered, choosing his words carefully. "I can arrange for a comfortable apartment, proper meals, school, enrollment, everything you need." "What's the catch?" Aurora asked, her voice carrying a wisdom beyond her years. "No catch," Alexander assured her. "Just let me help. You can have your own space, make your own decisions. I'll simply ensure you have the resources you need." Aurora was quiet for a long moment, pushing the remaining pancake pieces around her plate. "The social workers said they'd have to put me in the system," she finally said. "I don't want that. Grandma always said to avoid the system." "This would be different," Alexander promised. "Private arrangements, completely legal but separate from the system. You'd have independence but also support." He could see her weighing the options, her practical nature, so like Claire's, evaluating the risks and benefits. Finally, she nodded slowly. "Okay," she said, "but I can leave if I want to." "Absolutely," Alexander agreed, even as his heart clenched at the thought. "You're in control here." As they finished their breakfast, Alexander made several discreet phone calls, setting things in motion. By afternoon, he had secured a furnished apartment in a safe neighborhood, arranged for a trusted housekeeper to stock the kitchen, and contacted his most reliable security team. What he couldn't do yet, was reveal his suspicions about their connection. First, he needed proof, and more importantly, he needed to understand why Claire had left, what role her mother had played, and what forces had conspired to keep his daughter hidden from him for 12 years. The rain had stopped by the time they left the diner, but the sky remained heavy with unspoken secrets. As Alexander watched Aurora climb into his car, still wearing his coat, he made a silent promise to uncover the truth, no matter the cost to his empire or his carefully constructed life. The apartment Alexander had arranged surpassed all of Aurora's expectations. Located on the 15th floor of a modern building in a quiet neighborhood, it offered sweeping views of the city through floor-to-ceiling windows. The furniture was simple but elegant, the kitchen fully equipped, and her bedroom was larger than the entire apartment she'd shared with her grandmother. "This is too much," Aurora whispered, standing in the middle of the living room, still wearing Alexander's coat despite the comfortable indoor temperature. "It's exactly what you need," Alexander replied gently. "Mrs. Rodriguez will come by 3 times a week to clean and stock the kitchen. She's very discreet and has worked for me for years." Aurora wandered to the windows, pressing her palm against the cool glass. "Why are you doing all this?" she asked, her reflection overlapping with the city skyline. "You don't even know me." Alexander carefully maintained his composure, though his heart ached to tell her everything he suspected. "Sometimes," he said slowly, "we're drawn to help others, without fully understanding why. I just know it's the right thing to do." He watched as she explored the apartment, taking in every detail with a mix of wonder and wariness. In the kitchen, she opened cupboards to find them already stocked with food. The bathroom had fresh towels and new toiletries. In the bedroom, the closet contained several sets of clothes in her size, nothing flashy but all of good quality. "I took the liberty of arranging some necessities," Alexander explained. "If anything doesn't fit or isn't to your taste, we can easily replace it." Aurora picked up a simple blue sweater, running her fingers over the soft fabric. "Grandma used to buy all our clothes at thrift stores," she said quietly. She said new clothes were a waste of money when used ones worked just fine. Alexander's jaw tightened slightly at this reminder of the hardships she'd endured. "Your grandmother sounds like a practical woman," he said carefully. "She must have worked very hard to take care of you." "She did," Aurora nodded, placing the sweater back carefully. "She worked as a night clerk at a hotel until she got too sick. She always made sure I had enough to eat, even if it meant she went hungry sometimes." Each new detail about Aurora's life with Margaret Chen added another piece to the puzzle, but also raised more questions. Why had Margaret struggled so much if Claire's family had been comfortably middle class? Why hadn't she sought help from relatives? And most importantly, what had really happened to Claire? "Aurora," Alexander began, choosing his words carefully, "would you be willing to tell me more about your mother? Anything you remember, or that your grandmother told you?" The girl's expression closed off immediately. "There's not much to tell," she said, moving away from the closet. "Grandma said she got sick when I was a baby, that's all." Alexander recognized the defensive posture, the way she withdrew into herself. "I understand," he said softly. "You don't have to talk about anything you're not comfortable with." Changing the subject, he showed her how to use the building's security system and gave her a phone with emergency numbers pre-programmed. "My private number is in there too," he explained. "You can call or text any time, day or night." "What should I call you?" Aurora asked, examining the phone. "I don't even know your name." The question caught him off guard. In his rush to help her, he'd forgotten this basic courtesy. "Alexander," he said. "Alexander Sterling." Aurora's eyes widened slightly. "Like Sterling Enterprises, the tech company?" "Yes," he admitted, "I founded it." She looked at him with new understanding. "That's why you can afford all this," she said, gesturing around the apartment. "You're rich." "I've been fortunate in business," Alexander acknowledged. "But money isn't everything. I learned that lesson a long time ago." The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the apartment as they finished reviewing practical arrangements. Alexander had enrolled her in a nearby private school, arranged for a tutor to help her catch up on any missed work, and set up a bank account in trust for her daily needs. As he prepared to leave, Aurora suddenly spoke up. "I found something. In Grandma's things," she said hesitantly. After she was gone. A letter she never sent. It mentioned Sterling Enterprises." Alexander's heart skipped a beat. "What kind of letter?" "I don't know. I didn't read it all. It made me Sad. She disappeared into the bedroom and returned with a crumpled envelope. Maybe you should have it. Alexander accepted the envelope with steady hands that belied his inner turmoil. Thank you, he said. I'll look at it later. Standing in the doorway, he turned back one last time. Remember, you can leave any time. But I hope you'll give this arrangement a chance. Aurora nodded, clutching the new phone like a lifeline. I will, and thank you for everything. As the elevator descended, Alexander finally allowed his composure to crack. The letter in his pocket felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Could this be the key to understanding Claire's disappearance? And if it was he ready for the truth it might reveal? The drive back to Sterling Enterprises headquarters was a blur. Alexander sat in the back seat, the unopened letter burning a hole in his pocket. 20 years of questions might be answered in those pages, yet he couldn't bring himself to read them. Not yet, not here. His assistant met him at the elevator, tablet in hand. The board is still waiting, Mr. Sterling. They've been in session for 3 hours. Tell them I'm cancelling, Alexander replied, striding past her. Reschedule for next week. But sir, the merger. Can wait, he cut her off, softening his tone at her startled expression. Something more important has come up. Clear my schedule for the rest of the day. In his private office, Alexander finally allowed himself to examine the envelope. The paper was yellowed with age, the handwriting unmistakably Margaret Chen's. He remembered it from the few times she'd signed holiday cards, back when his relationship with Claire was new and full of promise. With trembling fingers, he extracted the letter, unfolding it carefully on his desk. My dearest Claire, it began, I know you'll never read these words, but I must write them anyway. The guilt of what we did, what I helped them do to you, has become unbearable. Alexander's vision blurred as he read on. The truth, finally revealed in Margaret's confession, was worse than anything he'd imagined. Claire hadn't left him voluntarily. She'd been coerced, threatened, manipulated by his own family, working in concert with their corporate lawyers. The pregnancy had been deemed a liability, a threat to the company's public image, just as they were preparing to go public. His father, still CEO at the time, had orchestrated everything. Claire had been given an ultimatum: leave without a word, accept a modest settlement, or watch as Alexander's career was systematically destroyed through manufactured scandals and evidence of misconduct. They promised to take care of us, Margaret had written. But the money stopped coming after the first year. When I tried to contact them, I was told that any attempt to reach out would result in legal action. We were trapped, and you were suffering, trying to work while pregnant, living. Found that tiny apartment in Portland. Alexander's hands clenched into fists as he read about Claire's final years. The sickness Aurora had been told about was real. Breast cancer, discovered too late because Claire couldn't afford regular medical care. She had spent her final months in a county hospital, her only comfort being that Aurora would have her grandmother to depend on. The letter ended with a desperate plea. I should have been stronger, should have helped you fight them. Now you're gone, and I'm all Aurora has left. I'm not sure how much longer I can protect her. If you're watching over us, please forgive me. And if by some miracle this letter finds its way to Alexander, let him know that you never stopped loving him. The sound of paper tearing snapped Alexander back to the present. He'd gripped the letter so tightly it had started to rip. Carefully, smoothing it out, he placed it in his safe, then sank into his chair, head in his hands. His own family had orchestrated this tragedy. While he'd built his empire, believing Claire had simply abandoned him, she'd been struggling to survive, raising their daughter in poverty. The injustice of it all threatened to overwhelm him. A soft knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. Mr. Sterling, his assistant called, your father is on line 1. He says it's about the merger. Alexander stared at the blinking light on his phone. The father he'd trusted, admired, followed into the business world, the architect of his greatest loss. With deliberate calm, he pressed the button to reject the call. Opening his laptop, he began to type, his fingers flying across the keyboard as he drafted a series of emails. First, to his lawyers, requesting a complete audit of all company transactions from 20 years ago. Second, to his private investigator, ordering a thorough background check on Margaret Chen's final years, and finally to the board of directors, calling for an emergency meeting. The corporate empire his family had sacrificed everything to build was about to face its day of reckoning. But first, he had to ensure Aurora's safety. Once his family discovered her existence, they would see her as a threat to everything they'd worked to protect. Alexander reached for his phone, then hesitated. Aurora had already been through so much. Did he have the right to disrupt her life further by revealing the truth? Or would keeping his silence make him complicit in the very conspiracy that had destroyed her mother's life? As the Seattle rain resumed its steady drumming against his office windows, Alexander wrestled with the weight of secrets old and new, knowing that every choice he made now would have consequences that would ripple through both their lives forever. The next morning dawned clear and bright, a rarity in Seattle's typically overcast sky. Alexander had barely slept, his mind racing with plans and contingencies. The weight of Margaret's letter pressed against his conscience, demanding action while counseling caution. His first stop was Aurora's apartment. Mrs. Rodriguez had texted him that the girl had eaten breakfast and was preparing for her first day with the tutor. When he arrived, he found Aurora sitting cross-legged on the living room floor surrounded by textbooks. "Good morning," he said softly, not wanting to startle her. "How are you settling in?" Aurora looked up, her amber eyes bright with something that might have been happiness. "It's different," she admitted. "The bed is so soft I almost couldn't sleep, and there's so much food in the kitchen." Alexander's heart clenched at the wonder in her voice over such basic comforts. "The tutor will be here soon. Miss Bennett is one of the best. She'll help you prepare for starting school next week." "I've missed a lot," Aurora said, gesturing at the books around her. "Grandma tried to help me keep up, but—" She trailed off, her expression clouding. Alexander sat down in one of the armchairs, maintaining a respectful distance. "Aurora, there's something I need to discuss with you. About your mother." The change in her posture was immediate, shoulders tensing, fingers curling around the edge of a textbook. "What about her?" "I knew her," Alexander said gently. "A long time ago, before you were born." Aurora's eyes widened, searching his face. "How? Grandma never mentioned—" "We were very close," he continued, each word carefully chosen. "But we lost touch. I read the letter you gave me yesterday." "What did it say?" Aurora asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Alexander leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "It revealed that there were people who forced your mother to leave Seattle, people who thought they were protecting something important, but who really just caused a lot of pain." "Who?" The question hung in the air between them. "My family," Alexander admitted, watching her face carefully. "My father specifically. They didn't want your mother and me to be together." Aurora's expression cycled through confusion, shock, and something darker. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you deserve the truth," Alexander replied. "And because—" He took a deep breath. "Aurora, I believe I'm your father." The silence that followed was deafening. Aurora sat perfectly still, her face unreadable. Then slowly she stood up, gathering her books with mechanical precision. "Aurora." "I need to be alone," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "Please." "Alexander," rose, his heart heavy. "Of course. Take all the time you need. I'll make sure Ms. Bennett knows to come back tomorrow instead." At the door, he paused. "I know this is overwhelming, but I want you to know that nothing has to change if you don't want it to. The apartment, the school, everything. It's all still yours. No strings attached." Aurora didn't respond, her back turned to him as she stared out the window. Alexander left quietly, feeling like he'd just shattered the fragile trust they'd begun to build. In his office, he found a stack of preliminary reports from his investigation team. The paper trail of his father's manipulation was becoming clearer. Payments made through shell companies, confidentiality agreements signed under duress, even surveillance reports tracking Claire's movements in those early months. His private investigator had also uncovered medical records from Claire's final illness. The cancer had been aggressive, but treatable if caught early. With proper medical care she couldn't afford, she might have survived. The intercom buzzed. "Mr. Sterling, your father is here. He's quite insistent about seeing you." Alexander straightened in his chair, squaring his shoulders. "Send him in." Gerald Sterling entered the office with his usual commanding presence, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit. "Alexander, this radio silence is unacceptable. The merger—" "Sit down, Dad," Alexander cut him off. "And we need to talk about Claire Chen." The color drained from his father's face. "That was dealt with 20 years ago." "No," Alexander said quietly, dangerously. "It wasn't dealt with. It was buried. And now I know everything." Gerald's expression hardened. "Whatever you think you know, son, I suggest you let it stay in the past where it belongs. The company—" "I found my daughter," Alexander interrupted. "Your granddaughter, the one you paid to have hidden away." For the first time in Alexander's memory, his father looked genuinely shaken. "You can't prove—" "I have proof of everything," Alexander said, sliding a folder across the desk. "Every payment, every threat, every piece of the conspiracy that destroyed Claire's life. The only question now is what I'm going to do with it." Gerald Sterling's composure cracked further as he scanned the documents in the folder. Years of carefully orchestrated deception were laid bare in bank statements, legal documents, and surveillance reports. "Everything I did," he said finally, "was to protect this company, your future." "My future?" Alexander's laugh was bitter. "You destroyed the only future that really mattered. Claire was pregnant with your grandchild, and you drove her away with threats and intimidation." "The company was about to go public," Gerald insisted. "Your relationship with that girl was a liability. Her family's background, her refusal to sign a prenuptial agreement." "She refused because she actually loved me," Alexander cut in. "Something this family seems to have forgotten how to do." A knock at the door interrupted their confrontation. Alexander's assistant entered, looking apologetic. "I'm sorry, Mr. Sterling, but there's an urgent call from Mrs. Rodriguez. It's about Aurora." Alexander's heart stopped. "Put it through." The housekeeper's voice was tight with concern. "Mr. Sterling, the girl, she's gone. She left a note saying not to look for her. I found it when I came to prepare lunch." Gerald's expression shifted. "Aurora? You've already made contact with her?" "Don't," Alexander warned, already reaching for his coat. "Don't even think about getting involved." Into the phone he added, "Call building security. Check the cameras, I'm on my way." The drive to the apartment was torturous. Alexander's mind raced with possibilities, each worse than the last. Had he pushed too hard, too fast with the truth? Should he have waited, built more trust first? The building security footage showed Aurora leaving shortly after his departure, carrying only a small backpack. She'd turned left at the corner, heading toward the bus stop where he'd first found her. "She's scared," Mrs. Rodriguez said softly, watching the footage with him. "But she's smart. She won't go far without resources." Alexander nodded, an idea forming. "The bank account. If she uses the card I gave her." Within minutes, his team had a hit, a small withdrawal from an ATM near Pike Place Market. Alexander drove there himself, scanning the crowds of tourists and locals for a familiar face. He found her exactly where his instincts said she would be, at the same bus stop where they'd first met, her backpack clutched tight against her. "Chest, you know," he said, approaching slowly. "Most kids who run away don't return to the place they were found." Aurora didn't look up. "I'm not running away, I'm thinking." Alexander sat down beside her, careful to leave space between them. "That's fair. It's a lot to process." "Did you know?" she asked suddenly. "When you found me here, did you know who I was?" "No," he answered honestly. "I just knew something about you reminded me of your mother. The truth didn't start coming together until I read your grandmother's letter." Aurora was quiet for a long moment, watching buses come and go. "I used to make up stories about my father," she said finally. "Grandma would never tell me anything, so I imagined he was a soldier or an explorer, or someone who helped people. I never imagined." She gestured vaguely at his expensive suit. "I understand if you're disappointed," Alexander said softly. "I'm not disappointed," Aurora replied, surprising him. "I'm angry, not at you, at them. The people who kept us apart, who let Mom—" She broke off, wiping her eyes roughly. Alexander's hands itched to comfort her, but he held back. "I'm angry too, and I promise you, they won't get away with it." "What happens now?" Aurora asked, finally turning to look at him. "That depends on you," Alexander said. "We can take this as slow or as fast as you want. The apartment is still yours, no obligations. If you want to know more about your mother, I'll tell you everything I remember. If you want space, I'll give it to you. And if I want—" She hesitated. "If I want to try having a father." Alexander's heart soared, but he kept his voice steady. "Then we'll figure it out together, one day at a time." Aurora nodded slowly. "I still want to be alone sometimes, to think, of course. And I'm keeping the apartment." "Absolutely. And—" She took a deep breath. "I want to know everything. About Mom. About what happened. Even the hard parts." Alexander stood, offering his hand. "How about we start with lunch? I know a place near here that serves the best clam chowder in Seattle. Your mother used to love it." Aurora hesitated for just a moment before taking his hand. As they walked away from the bus stop, Alexander realized that while some wounds might never fully heal, new beginnings were still possible, even in the most unexpected places. The small cafe near Pike Place Market was exactly as Alexander remembered it. The same weathered wooden tables, the same view of ferries crossing Elliott Bay, even the same faded photographs of old Seattle on the walls. He and Claire had spent countless Sunday afternoons here, planning their future over bowls of steaming chowder. Now, sitting across from Aurora, Alexander watched as she tentatively tasted the soup. Her eyes widened slightly. "Good?" he asked. She nodded, taking another spoonful. "Mom liked this place?" "We came here all the time," Alexander said, memories washing over him. "She always said the secret was the fresh clams from the market. Your mother had an incredible appreciation for simple, authentic things." "What else?" Aurora asked, her voice soft but eager. "What else did she like?" Alexander smiled, grateful for her openness. "She loved reading mystery novels. The more complicated, the better. She could always figure out who did it before the end. And she painted, mostly watercolors. She had this way of capturing light that made everything look like it was glowing from within." "I didn't know she painted," Aurora said, her spoon pausing halfway to her mouth. "Grandma never mentioned that." "Maybe it was too painful for her to talk about," Alexander suggested gently. "I have some of your mother's paintings in storage. Would you like to see them sometime?" Aurora nodded, then hesitated. What did Grandma mean in her letter? About people stopping the money? Alexander set down his spoon, choosing his words carefully. "When your mother left, my father arranged what he called a settlement, monthly payments to help support her, and later you. But after the first year, he cut off the funds, thinking it would prevent her from ever trying to contact me. That's when we moved to the small apartment," Aurora said, understanding dawning in her eyes. "Grandma started working nights. She said it paid better, but she was trying to make up for the lost support," Alexander finished. "I'm so sorry, Aurora, if I had known—" "It's not your fault," she said firmly. "You didn't know about any of it. Still, I should have looked harder for your mother when she disappeared. I let myself believe the lies my family told me, that she'd simply chosen to leave." Aurora was quiet for a moment, stirring her soup thoughtfully. "What are you going to do about them? Your family?" "I'm going to make things right," Alexander said, his voice firm. "Starting with a complete restructuring of the company's board. My father and his allies won't be in positions of power anymore." "Won't that be difficult?" "Very. But I own the controlling interest in Sterling Enterprises. What I couldn't do 20 years ago as a junior executive, I can do now as CEO." Aurora absorbed this information, her expression thoughtful. "Is that why you've been missing your meetings?" Because of me? Alexander was surprised by her perceptiveness. The company is important, he acknowledged, but some things matter more. I've learned that lesson the hard way. Their conversation was interrupted by Alexander's phone buzzing. A text from his assistant. Emergency board meeting called by your father, 3 p.m. today. Speaking of meetings, he sighed, showing Aurora the message. It seems I can't put this off any longer. You should go, Aurora said, surprising him again. I'll be okay. I promise not to run away again. Alexander studied her face, seeing Claire's determination in her expression. Are you sure we could talk more? We have time, she said simply. At least, I hope we do. All the time you want, Alexander assured her. Would you like to have dinner together tomorrow? I could tell you more about your mother. Show you some old photographs. Aurora nodded, a small smile tugging at her lips. I'd like that. As they left the cafe, Aurora suddenly reached out and squeezed his hand briefly. The gesture was quick, almost shy, but it filled Alexander's heart with hope. Back at Sterling Enterprises, he found the boardroom already full. His father sat at the head of the table, flanked by his longtime allies. The tension in the room was palpable. Glad you could join us, son, Gerald said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. We were just discussing the company's future leadership. Alexander took his seat calmly, noting the worried glances among the board members. Perfect timing then, because I have some changes to propose. He opened his briefcase, removing a thick folder of documents. 20 years of secrets were about to come to light, and this time he was ready for the fight. Before we begin, he announced, his voice carrying across the suddenly silent room, I'd like to discuss the illegal activities this board engaged in regarding Claire Chen and her family. Activities that, if made public, would not only destroy this company's reputation, but could result in criminal charges. Gerald's face reddened. You wouldn't dare. Try me, Alexander cut him off. I'm not that young executive you could manipulate anymore. And I have nothing left to lose except my daughter. And I've already lost her once, never again. The boardroom erupted into chaos. 20 years of carefully guarded secrets lay exposed on the polished mahogany table, detailed in reports, bank statements, and sworn affidavits from former employees who had finally broken their silence. These allegations are preposterous. Gerald sputtered, but his usual commanding presence had crumbled. The statute of limitations doesn't apply to ongoing conspiracy, Alexander interrupted smoothly. Our lawyers confirmed that this morning. Every year you maintained the lie, every time you renewed those illegal confidentiality agreements, you extended the conspiracy. One of the younger board members, Sarah Chen, no relation to Claire, but the irony wasn't lost on Alexander, spoke up. What exactly are you proposing, Mr. Sterling? Alexander laid out his terms clearly. His father and the board members involved in the conspiracy would resign immediately. The company would establish a substantial trust fund for Aurora, backdated, to include all the support that should have been provided over the years. Most importantly, Sterling Enterprises would create a new charitable foundation in Claire's name, dedicated to providing medical care for single parents and their children. You're willing to risk everything we've built? Gerald demanded. Over some long-ago mistake? A mistake. Alexander's voice was quiet but carried an edge of steel. You forced a pregnant woman into hiding. You cut off her support, knowing she had no other resources. When she got sick, she couldn't afford proper medical care because of your actions. That's not a mistake, Dad. That's criminal negligence at best. The board members exchanged nervous glances. The company's legal counsel, who had been quietly reviewing the documents, cleared his throat. Mr. Sterling, the elder Mr. Sterling, I recommend we accept these terms. The alternative could be extremely damaging. Gerald's face darkened with rage. You ungrateful... I'll take that as your resignation, Alexander cut him off. Security will escort you out. Your personal items will be delivered to your home. As his father was led from the room, Alexander turned to the remaining board members. Those of you not involved in this situation I look forward to working with you to rebuild Sterling Enterprises' integrity. Those of you who were involved, you know who you are. I expect your resignations on my desk by morning." The meeting adjourned in a flurry of whispers and hurried exits. Alexander remained seated, emotionally drained but satisfied. His assistant appeared at his elbow with a cup of coffee. "Sir?" Your daughter's tutor called. "Aurora had an excellent first session. She's particularly strong in mathematics." Alexander smiled, warmth spreading through his chest at the words, "your daughter." "Thank you, Janet. Could you do me a favor? There's a storage unit in Bellevue, under my personal account. I need Claire's paintings brought to my office." That evening, as Seattle's early summer sunset painted the sky in shades of pink and gold, Alexander carefully unwrapped the paintings he hadn't looked at in 20 years. Each one brought back memories: the view from their first apartment, the ferry terminal where they used to walk on weekends, a self-portrait Claire had done, laughing at her own attempt to capture her expression. His phone buzzed with a text from Aurora. "Thank you for lunch today and for telling me about Mom. Dinner tomorrow still okay?" Alexander typed back quickly, "Absolutely. I have something special to show you." The next morning, a group of workers began carefully hanging Claire's paintings throughout Aurora's apartment. Each one was accompanied by a small card describing when and where it had been painted, preserving the memories for their daughter. The last painting Alexander saved for Aurora's bedroom. It was a watercolor of two hands intertwined, one large, one small, reaching toward a bright horizon. Claire had painted it when she first suspected she was pregnant, full of hope for their future family. Now, looking at it, Alexander saw not just the past they'd lost, but the future they might still build. Different from what Claire had imagined, perhaps, but still full of possibility. Aurora stood frozen in the doorway of her apartment, her backpack sliding from her shoulder to the floor with a soft thud. The walls, once stark white, were now alive with color and light. Claire's paintings transformed the space into a gallery of lost moments, each one a window into the past she'd never known. "These are all," she whispered, unable to finish the sentence. "Your mother's work," Alexander confirmed softly, standing behind her. "Each one has a story." Aurora moved slowly through the apartment, stopping at each painting. Her fingers hovered near the surfaces, not quite touching, as if she feared the images might dissolve at her touch. She paused longest at a watercolor of Pike Place Market, the familiar awnings and crowds captured in soft washes of color. "She painted this before you were born," Alexander explained, joining her. "We used to spend whole weekends there, watching. The fish throwers, sampling cheeses, buying flowers." "Did she like flowers?" Aurora asked, her voice barely audible. Sunflowers were her favorite. She said they were the most honest flowers, always turning their faces to the light no matter what. Aurora nodded, absorbing this new detail. About her mother. "Grandma kept a sunflower in our kitchen window, just one in an old jar, I never knew why." They moved through the apartment together, Alexander sharing the story behind each painting. The ferry terminal where he and Claire had their first kiss. The library where they'd met, Claire sketching in a corner while studying for her art history degree. The little cafe where they'd eaten lunch yesterday, captured in morning light. "There's one more," Alexander said finally, gesturing toward Aurora's bedroom. "This one's special." Aurora entered the room and stopped short. Above her, bed hung the painting of the intertwined hands reaching toward the horizon, her own hand lifted unconsciously, mirroring the smaller one in the painting. "She painted this when she was pregnant with you," Alexander said quietly, "before everything fell apart, before they forced her to leave." Aurora turned to him, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "Why didn't she fight back? Why didn't she tell you anyway?" Alexander moved to sit on the edge of the bed, patting the space beside him. After a moment's hesitation, Aurora joined him. "Your mother was the strongest person I've ever known," he began. "But they threatened more than just her. They threatened my career, yes, but they also threatened legal action that would have tied us up in courts for years. She was young, pregnant, without resources for a long legal battle. She thought she was protecting both of us, you and me. By leaving? By accepting their terms, they promised to provide for you both. Your grandmother's letter explained that the support stopped after a year, but by then they'd made sure Claire couldn't reach me without risking everything. Aurora was quiet for a long moment, studying the painting. Do you think she'd be happy about us finding each other? Alexander felt his throat tighten. I think it's what she always wanted. Even in her final days, according to your grandmother's letter, she hoped somehow we'd find our way back to each other. I'm starting school next week, Aurora said suddenly, changing the subject. Miss Bennett says I'm caught up enough in most subjects. Alexander accepted the shift in conversation, recognizing her need to process everything at her own pace. That's wonderful. Are you nervous? A little. It's a fancy private school. Everyone will be different. You'll be fine, Alexander assured her. You have your mother's intelligence and your grandmother's determination, but if you're ever uncomfortable, we can look at other options. Aurora nodded, then stood abruptly and walked to her closet. She emerged with a small, worn notebook. I found this in Grandma's things too. I think it was Mom's diary. I haven't read it yet. I was scared to do it alone. Alexander's heart skipped a beat. Would you like us to read it together? Maybe not all at once, Aurora said carefully, but maybe a little bit each day, when we have dinner together. I'd like that, Alexander said softly. Aurora clutched the diary to her chest, looking around at the paintings that now filled her space. It's like she's watching over us now, through her art. She always had a way of capturing the heart of things, Alexander agreed. These weren't just places to her. They were moments, feelings, dreams. Can you... Aurora hesitated. Can you tell me about the day you met, the whole story? Alexander smiled, patting the bed again. As Aurora settled beside him, slightly closer this time, he began to tell the story of a rainy afternoon in the university library, where a young business student had looked up from his economics textbook to find an art student sketching him without his knowledge. Outside the apartment windows, Seattle's endless rain had finally stopped. The late afternoon sun broke through the clouds, casting long shadows and making Claire's watercolors glow with renewed vibrancy, as if they too were awakening to tell their stories. The first entry in Claire's diary was dated 20 years ago, written in flowing script that made Aurora catch her breath. She and Alexander sat at the kitchen table, a light dinner of pasta and salad, mostly forgotten between them, as they began to read. September 15th, 2004, Aurora read softly. Today I finally worked up the courage to sketch him. The serious business student who sits by the window every Tuesday afternoon, frowning at his textbooks like they've personally offended him. I thought I was being subtle. I wasn't. Alexander smiled at the memory. I caught her staring and assumed she was judging my terrible study habits. Then she showed me the sketch. Was it good? Aurora asked. It was perfect. She'd captured exactly how intense and overly serious I was back then, made me see myself through her eyes, and laugh at myself for the first time in years. They read on, finding Claire's account of their first coffee date, their walks along the waterfront, their shared dreams. Her words painted pictures as vivid as her watercolors, full of hope and joy and possibilities. October 30th, Aurora continued reading. Alexander took me to meet his family today. His father was less than impressed. I could feel the disapproval radiating off him in waves, but I won't let it matter. What Alexander and I have is real, and no amount of family pressure can change that. Alexander's expression tightened. If only they'd known then how wrong those words would prove to be. But Aurora was already turning to the next page. November 15th. The morning sickness is getting harder to hide. I haven't told Alexander yet. I want to be sure first and find the right moment. I've started a new painting, something to capture this feeling of incredible possibility. She broke off, looking up at the painting of the intertwined hands that now hung in her bedroom. This one? Alexander nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. The next entry was tear-stained, the ink blurred in places. December 3rd, they came to my apartment today, Mr. Sterling's lawyers. They had documents, recordings, threats. They said they would destroy Alexander's future if I didn't leave. Said they had evidence that could ruin him, that it would all be my fault. Aurora closed the diary suddenly. I don't want to read any more tonight. Of course, Alexander said gently. We can take this as slowly as you need. She stood, pacing the kitchen. Did you love her? Really love her? With all my heart, Alexander answered without hesitation. She was the best thing that ever happened to me, until now. Aurora stopped pacing, looking at him with those familiar amber eyes. I have her eyes, she said. Grandma always said so. And her spirit, Alexander added, her strength, her way of seeing right to the heart of things. The board meeting. Yesterday, Aurora said, changing subjects abruptly as she often did when emotions ran high. What happened? Alexander explained about the resignations, the restructuring, the foundation being established in Claire's name. It won't make up for the past, he finished, but it might help other families avoid what happened to you and your mother. Aurora nodded slowly. Good. Then after a pause, what do I call you? The question caught Alexander off guard. Whatever you're comfortable with, he said carefully. Alexander is fine, or... I'm not ready for Dad yet, Aurora said quickly. But maybe someday. Someday, Alexander agreed, his heart lighter than it had been in years. I start school on Monday, Aurora said, fiddling with her water glass. Will you drive me there, just this first time? I'd be honored, Alexander replied, trying to keep his voice steady, despite the joy threatening to overwhelm him. We could get breakfast first if you'd like. I know a place that makes amazing waffles. With blueberries. Your mother's favorite, Alexander confirmed, then watched as Aurora's face lit up with this new connection to Claire. Later, as they cleared the dinner dishes together, Aurora paused by one of the paintings, a simple watercolor of 2 coffee cups on a cafe table, steam rising in delicate swirls. Do you think, she began hesitantly, do you think I could learn to paint? Like she did? Alexander smiled. I think your mother would love that. We can arrange lessons if you'd like. Not yet, Aurora decided, but soon. First I want to read more, get to know her better through her words. She picked up the diary, holding it close. Same time tomorrow? Same time tomorrow, Alexander promised. As she headed to her room, Aurora paused in the hallway. Alexander, thank you for finding me, for telling me the truth, for... She gestured at the paintings surrounding them, for giving her back to me. Alexander watched her disappear into her room. Claire's diary clutched to her chest like a treasure. Through the windows, the setting sun caught the watercolors just right, making them glow with an inner light, just as Claire had always managed to capture in her work. Monday morning. Arrived with uncharacteristic sunshine breaking through Seattle's clouds. Aurora stood in front of her bedroom mirror, tugging at the collar of her new school uniform, a crisp white blouse and navy blue skirt that still felt foreign against her skin. You look perfect, Mrs. Rodriguez assured her, adjusting Aurora's ponytail one last time. The housekeeper had arrived early to help her prepare for her first day, sensing the girl's nervous energy. A soft knock at the apartment door made Aurora's stomach flip. Alexander stood there, looking slightly nervous himself, holding a small gift bag. I hope I'm not too early, he said. I thought you might like something for your first day. Aurora accepted the bag cautiously. Inside, she found a leather-bound sketchbook and a set of high-quality drawing pencils. A small note was attached. For whenever you're ready to start capturing the world in your own way. Thank you, she whispered, running her fingers over the smooth leather cover. Your mother always carried a sketchbook, Alexander explained. She said you never knew when inspiration would strike. They drove to the breakfast place Alexander had mentioned, a cozy diner where the waitress seemed to know him by name. As they settled into a booth, Aurora noticed the walls were decorated with local artists' work, including, she realized with a start, one of her mother's watercolors. "I donated it years ago," Alexander said, following her gaze to the familiar signature in the corner. "I couldn't bear to keep her art hidden away, but I couldn't look at it either. At least here it brought joy to others." Their waffles arrived, piled high with fresh blueberries and whipped cream. Aurora took a bite and couldn't help smiling. They were as good as promised. "Nervous about today?" Alexander asked gently. Aurora nodded, pushing a blueberry around her plate. "Everyone else has probably been there since kindergarten. They'll all know each other." "True," Alexander acknowledged, "but they'll also be curious about you. Remember, you don't have to share any more of your story than you're comfortable with." "What's the official story?" Aurora asked. About us?" Alexander set down his coffee cup. "As far as the school is concerned, you're my daughter who's been living with your grandmother, and you've come to stay with me after her passing. The rest is private, your choice if and when to share more." Aurora absorbed this, appreciating the simplicity of the explanation and the control it gave her over her own narrative. The drive to Lakeside Preparatory Academy was quiet, both lost in their thoughts. The school's imposing brick buildings and manicured grounds came into view, making Aurora's breath catch. Students in identical uniforms streamed through the wrought iron gates, calling out greetings to each other after the summer break. Alexander parked in the visitors' lot. "Would you like me to walk you to the office?" Aurora surprised herself by nodding. As they walked across the campus, she found herself moving slightly closer to him, drawing comfort from his presence. The school secretary greeted them warmly, presenting Aurora with her class schedule and a campus map. "Mrs. Chen, your homeroom teacher, is expecting you," she said, not noticing how both Aurora and Alexander started at the name. "She'll help you get settled." In the hallway outside the office, Aurora turned to Alexander. "You're still picking me up after school?" "I'll be right here," he promised, "and you can call or text me anytime if you need to." Aurora clutched her new sketchbook to her chest. "Okay, I'm ready." As she turned to walk away, Alexander called after her softly. "Aurora, your mother would be so proud of you today." She smiled briefly over her shoulder, then disappeared into the stream of students. Alexander watched until she was out of sight, remembering another first day, long ago, when he'd watched Claire walk into her first university art class, her own sketchbook held close like a shield. Back in his car, he found himself sketching out plans for the Claire Chen Foundation. The initial funding would be substantial, enough to ensure that no other parent would have to choose between medical care and providing for their child. The board had balked at the size of the endowment, but Alexander had been firm. Some debts couldn't be measured in dollars and cents. His phone buzzed with a text from Aurora. "Homeroom teacher is nice, no relation to Mom?" I asked. "Learning. To paint is definitely moving up on my to-do list." Alexander smiled, typing back, "Take your time, art has a way of finding you when you're ready." As he drove to the office, the morning sun caught the edge of Claire's watercolor he kept in his wallet, a tiny sketch of the library window where they'd first met. He'd carried it every day for 20 years, a reminder of what really mattered. Now finally, it felt less like a memorial and more like a bridge to the future. That evening, Aurora's description of her first day tumbled out between bites of takeout Chinese food, another of Claire's favorites that Alexander had ordered to celebrate the occasion. "Everyone was actually really nice," she said, expertly wielding her chopsticks. "This girl Emma showed me around between classes, and in art class, Mrs. Peterson said my sketches showed natural talent." Alexander smiled, remembering Claire's own excitement when her professors had praised her work. "Did you use your new sketchbook?" Aurora nodded. "Just rough drawings, trying to capture how everything looked. The way the light comes through the stained glass in the library, the ivy on the old brick walls." She paused. "Mom would have loved to paint there, wouldn't she?" "She would have set up her easel right in the courtyard," Alexander confirmed. "Probably would have had all the students posing for her by lunchtime." They settled into what was becoming their evening routine, clearing the dishes together, then sitting at the kitchen table with Claire's diary between them. Aurora opened to where they'd left off, her finger trailing down the page to find their place. December 10th, 2004, she read. The baby moved today for the first time, just a flutter like a butterfly's wing, but I knew. I caught myself reaching for the phone to call Alexander before remembering I can't. The lawyers made it clear. Any contact, and they'll release those fabricated documents. I won't let them destroy his future. But oh, how I wish. Aurora's voice faltered. Alexander reached across the table, squeezing her hand gently. Keep going, he encouraged softly. We need to know. Aurora took a deep breath and continued. Mom says I should fight back, get a lawyer of my own, but the Sterling family has an army of attorneys and I have nothing, just my art, my baby, and the hope that someday, somehow the truth will find its way out. Your grandmother was right, Alexander said quietly. She should have fought. I would have fought with her. You can't know that for sure, Aurora pointed out, sounding older than her years. You were younger then, less powerful. But I loved her, and I would have loved you. Aurora turned the page, then stopped, her eyes widening. Carefully tucked between the pages was a small, faded ultrasound image. On the back, in Claire's handwriting, my little Aurora, already reaching for the stars. 16 weeks. Alexander's breath caught as Aurora handed him the image with trembling fingers. The grainy profile was barely discernible, but he could make out a tiny hand raised as if waving. I've never seen this before, Aurora whispered. Grandma never had any baby pictures of me. Claire must have tucked it into her diary for safekeeping, Alexander said, his voice rough with emotion. She knew even then that she was having a girl, that she'd name you Aurora. Aurora retrieved the photo gently, returning it to its place in the diary. There's something else here, a letter. She pulled out a folded piece of paper, the creases worn from repeated handling. My dearest Alexander, she began reading, then stopped. Should I? Please, Alexander said softly. My dearest Alexander, by the time you read this, if you ever read this, our daughter will be grown. I pray she has your strength and determination, tempered by the kindness I've always seen in your heart. I pray she understands that I left, not because I didn't love you, but because I loved you both too much to let them destroy your future. I'm writing this from our special place by the ferry terminal, watching the boats come and go like the chances we'll never have. Our baby moved again today, stronger this time. She's a fighter like her father, like I should have been. If you're reading this, it means the truth has finally come out. Please don't blame yourself for not knowing. Your father's web of lies was too perfect, too complete. But know this, every day of our daughter's life, I've told her she is loved. Even if she couldn't know you, she knows she comes from love. All my heart, always Claire. The kitchen was silent, except for the soft sound of Aurora's tears falling onto the diary's pages. Alexander realized he was crying too, 20 years of loss and love and missed chances flowing down his cheeks. She never gave up hope, Aurora said finally, her voice barely a whisper. She always believed we'd find each other. She made sure we would, Alexander replied. Through her art, her words, her love for you, she left us breadcrumbs to follow back to each other. Aurora closed the diary carefully, but kept her hand resting on its worn cover. I think I'd like to start those painting lessons soon, to keep her memory alive in my own way. Alexander smiled through his tears. I know just the teacher. She studied with your mother at the university. I think she'd love to help Claire's daughter find her own artistic voice. Outside, the evening had deepened into twilight, and the lights of the city sparkled like stars fallen to earth. In Claire's watercolor of the Seattle skyline hanging on the living room wall, she'd captured that same magical moment, the time between day and night when anything seemed possible. The art studio was flooded with natural light, its walls covered in canvases of varying sizes. Aurora stood in the doorway, taking in the familiar scent of paint and turpentine that somehow reminded her of her grandmother's stories about her mother. Welcome, said a woman in her early 40s, her silver-streaked hair pulled back in a messy bun. I'm Catherine Sullivan. Your mother used to call me Kate. Aurora's eyes widened. You knew my mother? We shared many classes together, Kate smiled, gesturing for Aurora to come inside. Claire had a unique way of seeing the world, finding beauty in the smallest moments. When your father called about lessons, I couldn't believe it. Claire's daughter here in my studio. Alexander, standing quietly behind Aurora, spoke up. Kate was the first person I thought of when you mentioned wanting to learn painting. Claire would sit right there, Kate pointed to a window seat, sketching between classes. She loved that view of the garden. She turned to Aurora. Would you like to see some of her student work? I kept everything from our collaborative projects. Aurora nodded eagerly. Kate disappeared into a storage room and returned with a portfolio bulging with sketches and small paintings. We were partnered for our final project in advanced composition. Claire's portion was... She rifled through the papers, then pulled out a series of watercolors. These. The paintings told a story through connected scenes, a young couple meeting in a library, sharing coffee, walking by the water, dreaming of their future. Aurora recognized the subjects immediately. That's you and Mom, she said softly to Alexander. She painted your story. She was already painting you too, Kate pointed out, indicating a subtle glow in the final image where the couple stood watching a sunset. Look how she used light there, like something precious was just beginning. Alexander cleared his throat, clearly emotional. I never saw these. By the time your final exhibition happened, she was gone, Kate finished gently. None of us understood why. But now, she looked at Aurora thoughtfully. Now I see she had her reasons. Setting up at an easel, Kate began Aurora's first lesson. She started with the basics, how to hold a brush, mix colors, create simple washes. Aurora absorbed everything. With intense concentration, her strokes hesitant at first, but growing more confident. You have her touch, Kate observed, watching Aurora blend colors. The way you instinctively know how much water to use, how to let the colors flow together. As Alexander watched from a comfortable corner chair, he couldn't help but notice how Aurora's posture echoed Claire's, the same slight tilt of the head when considering her work, the same unconscious habit of tucking hair behind her ear while concentrating. The afternoon light was fading when Kate finally called an end to the lesson. Aurora had completed her first watercolor, a simple study of light falling across the studio floor, but one that showed remarkable promise. Same time next week, Kate asked, carefully setting Aurora's painting aside to dry. Yes, please, Aurora replied, then hesitated. Would you tell me more about Mom next time? About what she was like as a student? Kate's eyes softened. I'll bring more of our old projects and plenty of stories. On the drive home, Aurora was quieter than usual, lost in thought as she watched the city pass by outside the car window. Everything okay? Alexander asked gently. I felt close to her today, Aurora said finally, like I could understand her better, seeing where she learned, hearing about her from someone who knew her then. She paused. Kate said Mom could find beauty in small moments. She could, Alexander agreed. She taught me to see it too. Before Claire, I was all about business plans and profit margins. She showed me how to stop and notice things, the way morning light hits the water, how steam curls up from a coffee cup, the stories hidden in everyday scenes. Like this, Aurora said, pulling out her phone to show him a sketch she'd made. During lunch break, her new friend Emma laughing at a table, sunlight from the cafeteria window creating a halo around her. Alexander smiled, recognizing Claire's gift for capturing fleeting moments. Exactly like that. When they arrived home, Aurora went straight to her room and returned with Claire's diary. I want to read more, she said, about when she was in art school, when she was learning to see the world the way Kate described. They settled into their usual spots at the kitchen table, but this time Aurora pulled her chair closer to Alexander's before opening the diary. September 30th, 2004, she began reading. Kate teased me about always sketching the same subject. the serious business student by the window, but she doesn't understand. When I draw him, I'm not just capturing his face. I'm capturing the moment before everything changed, the last instant before our eyes met, and my whole world shifted into brighter, more beautiful colors. The changes at Sterling Enterprises happened swiftly, but deliberately. Alexander's father's resignation had sent shockwaves through the business community, but the announcement of the Claire Chen Foundation generated even more attention. Reporters clamored for interviews, wanting to know the story behind this sudden focus on healthcare access for single parents. Alexander handled it all with careful precision, protecting Aurora's privacy while using the platform to advocate for change. The Foundation's first initiative, a partnership with local hospitals to provide comprehensive care for underinsured families, was already making headlines. "Look at this," Aurora said one evening, showing Alexander a news article on her tablet. "They're calling it a revolutionary approach to healthcare equity. Mum would have liked that, wouldn't she?" "She would have loved it," Alexander agreed, scanning the article. "Though she'd probably say we should be doing even more." They were sitting in what had become their favorite spot, the window seat in Aurora's room, surrounded by Claire's paintings and the growing collection of Aurora's own artwork. Her lessons with Kate were progressing rapidly, each week bringing new skills and techniques. "I've been thinking," Aurora said, setting aside her tablet, "about the foundation. Would it be okay if I got involved somehow?" Alexander looked at her with surprise. "Of course, but are you sure you're ready for that kind of public attention?" "Not like that," Aurora clarified. "Not with my name or anything. But maybe we could start an art therapy program for kids whose parents are sick. I keep thinking about how much painting helps me feel connected to Mom. Maybe it could help other kids too." Alexander felt his heart swell with pride. "That's a wonderful idea. We could work with Kate to develop the program. And maybe," Aurora hesitated, then continued more firmly, "maybe it's time to tell Grandpa about me. Properly, I mean. Not just as a threat in a board meeting." Alexander studied her face carefully. "What brought this on?" "I've been reading more of Mum's diary," Aurora explained. "The early parts, before everything went wrong. She wrote about how excited you were to tell your parents about her, how you thought they'd love her once they got to know her." She paused. Maybe it could be different this time." Alexander sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Your grandfather is a complicated man. He spent his whole life believing that business success matters more than anything else. But he was wrong," Aurora said simply. "And now he knows he was wrong. Maybe he deserves a chance to try again, to be better." The wisdom in her words, so like Claire's capacity for forgiveness, struck Alexander deeply. "When did you get so wise?" Aurora smiled slightly. "Mom's diary helps. She wrote a lot about forgiveness, about how holding on to anger only hurts. Yourself." She reached for the diary, which was never far from her these days. "Listen to this part." "March 15th, 2005, she read. "The baby kicked so strong today, right when I was painting the sunset. I like to think she's already responding to color and light, already developing her own artist's soul. I don't want her to inherit my pain or my anger. I want her to inherit only love. Love for art, love for beauty, love for life itself. If she someday meets her father, I want her heart to be open to all possibilities." Alexander wiped his eyes discreetly. "So you want to meet him, your grandfather?" Aurora nodded slowly. "But not alone, with you there, and..." She gestured at the paintings surrounding them, with Mom there too, in her way. "We could invite him here," Alexander suggested. "Let him see who Claire really was through her art. Let him see who you are becoming. Do you think he'll come?" "I think," Alexander said carefully, "that losing his position at the company has forced him to reconsider a lot of things. And I think seeing Claire's art, meeting you, it might be exactly what he needs." Aurora stood up and walked to her easel, where her latest painting was taking shape. A portrait of Alexander sitting at their kitchen table, reading Claire's diary, his face soft with love and loss. "Kate says I'm getting better at capturing emotions," she said, adding a subtle touch of color to the background. Maybe that's what Grandpa needs to see, not just Mom's art or my art, but the feelings behind them. The love that survived everything they tried to destroy. Alexander joined her at the easel, recognizing in her work the same intuitive understanding of light and emotion that had made Claire's paintings so powerful. "We'll invite him for dinner next week," he decided, "after your next lesson with Kate. You can show him your progress." Aurora nodded, adding another delicate brushstroke to her painting. Outside, the setting sun painted the Seattle skyline in shades of pink and gold, almost exactly matching the colors on her palette. "Mom wrote about this time of day," she said softly. She called it the moment when the world holds its breath, waiting to see what colors tomorrow will bring. Gerald Sterling stood in the apartment's entrance, looking smaller somehow than Alexander remembered. Gone was the commanding presence that had dominated boardrooms for decades, replaced by an uncertain man holding a carefully wrapped package. "Thank you for inviting me," he said formally, his eyes taking in the paintings that covered the walls. I wasn't sure I should come." "Aurora wanted to meet you," Alexander replied simply, leading his father into the living room. Properly this time. Aurora emerged from her room, wearing a paint-smudged apron over her clothes. She'd been working on a special piece all afternoon, though she wouldn't let Alexander see it yet. She stood tall, channeling some of her mother's quiet strength as she faced her grandfather. "Hello, Mr. Sterling," she said softly. Gerald's composure cracked slightly. "You look so much like her," he whispered. "Like Claire." "Mom's paintings are everywhere here," Aurora said, gesturing at the walls. "Would you like to see them?" Gerald nodded, seemingly unable to speak. Aurora led him through the apartment, explaining each painting with the confidence of someone who had studied them deeply, learned their stories, understood their significance. "This one," she said, stopping at the watercolor of the library window, "is where they first met. And this one..." She moved to the painting of the intertwined hands reaching toward the horizon. "This is when Mom knew about me." Gerald stood transfixed before the painting. "She was so talented," he said finally. I never really looked at her work before, never took the time to understand." "I'm learning to paint too," Aurora offered. "Would you like to see my studio?" She led them to her room, where her easel stood by the window. The painting she'd been working on all afternoon was still covered. "I made this for you," she said, surprising both men. With steady hands, she removed the cloth covering her latest work. The painting showed 3 generations of Sterlings, Gerald, Alexander, and herself, sitting at the kitchen table with Claire's diary between them. But the remarkable thing was how she'd captured the light. It seemed to emanate from the diary itself, illuminating their faces with understanding and possibility. And there, in the background, almost like a ghost but somehow more real than anything else, was Claire, watching over them with a gentle smile. Gerald Sterling, the man who had built an empire through sheer force of will, who had never shown weakness in front of anyone, began to cry. "I'm so sorry," he whispered, reaching out to touch the painting but stopping just short. "I was so wrong. About everything." Aurora stepped closer to him. "Mom wrote about you, you know, in her diary. Even after everything, she hoped someday you'd understand." May I read it?" Gerald asked hesitantly. Aurora retrieved the diary and found the page she'd marked. "April 3rd, 2005, she read. "The cherry blossoms are falling outside my window, and I'm thinking about family, about how Alexander's father sees the world in terms of assets and liabilities, gains and losses. I wish I could show him that some things can't be measured that way. Love, art, the kick of a baby in the womb, these are the real treasures. Maybe someday he'll understand that his son's happiness is worth more than any business deal." Gerald sank into Aurora's window seat, his shoulders shaking. Alexander moved to comfort him, then stopped, surprised by Aurora's next words. "I forgive you," she said simply. "Not just for me, but for Mom. She wouldn't want her art to bring more pain into the world. She'd want it to heal." Gerald looked up at her, his face wet with tears. "You're so much like her, not just in looks, but in your heart." He turned to Alexander. "Son, I know I don't deserve... Let's start over, Alexander interrupted gently. Not forgetting the past, but learning from it. Building something new. Gerald nodded, then reached for the package he'd brought. I found this in my office. I've had it all these years without knowing. He handed it to Aurora. It was delivered just after Claire left. I never opened it. Aurora carefully unwrapped the package to reveal a small watercolor painting. It showed a young Gerald Sterling years ago, laughing with his own father, in front of Sterling Enterprises' first office. Claire painted this from an old photograph, Alexander realized. She was going to give it to you. As a peace offering, Gerald finished, to show me she understood the importance of family legacy. He looked around at the art-filled room, at his granddaughter's talent blooming on canvas, at his son's quiet strength. I just didn't understand what legacy really meant. The Claire Chen Foundation's art therapy program launched on a bright autumn morning. The hospital's pediatric wing had been transformed, its walls now covered with children's artwork guided by Kate's gentle instruction. Aurora moved among the young artists, offering encouragement and sharing techniques she'd learned, while Alexander and Gerald watched from the doorway. She's a natural teacher, Gerald observed, watching his granddaughter help a small boy mix just the right shade of blue for his sky. Like Claire was. She's helping them tell their stories, Alexander agreed, just like Claire's art tells ours. The program had started small, just a few children whose parents were receiving treatment through the Foundation's healthcare initiative, but word spread quickly and now there was a waiting list for classes. I've been thinking, Gerald said hesitantly. The old Sterling building downtown, the one where that first painting was set, it's sitting empty now. What if we turned it into an art center? Classes for children, gallery space for emerging artists, studios for those who can't afford their own. Alexander turned to his father in surprise. You want to convert our first office building into an art center? The Claire Chen Center for the Arts, Gerald specified. A proper legacy, honoring the woman who tried to show me what really mattered. He paused. If you and Aurora approve, of course. Before Alexander could respond, Aurora appeared beside them, her face flushed with excitement. Come see what Tommy painted, she said, tugging them both toward a small easel where a boy of about 7 proudly displayed his work. The painting showed a hospital room, but instead of focusing on medical equipment or illness, the child had captured his mother's smile as she read him a story. The love between them radiated from the canvas in bright, hopeful colors. Mom would have loved this, Aurora said softly. Using art to find beauty even in hard times. Speaking of your mother, Gerald said, I've had my lawyers working on something. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. These are legal documents acknowledging Claire as the original inspiration for the Foundation's mission. Her name won't just be on the Foundation, she'll be officially recognized as its spiritual founder. Aurora took the envelope with trembling hands. So everyone will know her story? Everyone will know how her art and her love changed everything, Gerald confirmed, including me. Later that evening, back in their apartment, Aurora added a new painting to the wall, Tommy's artwork, which he had insisted she take. For the collection, he'd said seriously. Grandpa's different now, she observed, stepping back to make sure the frame was straight. Ever since that first dinner here. Alexander nodded. Your mother's art helped him see the world differently, just like it did for me all those years ago. Aurora retrieved Claire's diary from its place of honor on the bookshelf. There's an entry I've been saving, she said, about legacy and change. She found the page and began to read. May 15th, 2005. The baby is so active now, especially when I'm painting. I like to think she's dancing to the colors, already learning that art isn't just about what we see. It's about what we feel, what we dream, what we hope to leave behind. I may not be able to give her wealth or status, but I'm giving her this. The ability to see beauty in unexpected places, to find light in darkness, to understand that every stroke of color on canvas is an act of love. Aurora closed the diary gently. She did give me that, and now we're sharing it with others. Alexander wrapped an arm around her shoulders, both of them gazing at the wall of artwork that told their family's story, Claire's original paintings, Aurora's growing collection, and now Tommy's contribution, each piece a testament to the power of art to heal, connect, and transform. "Your mother once told me," Alexander said softly, "that the most beautiful paintings are never really finished. They keep growing in meaning as more people see them, feel them, understand them in their own way." "Like our story," Aurora replied, "it's still being painted." Through the window, the Seattle sunset painted the sky in Claire's favorite colors, the ones she'd used in so many of her paintings, the ones Aurora was learning to mix perfectly, the ones that seemed to say that even after the darkest times, light and beauty would always return. 1 year had passed since that rainy morning at the bus stop. The Claire Chen Center for the Arts was celebrating its grand opening, its restored brick walls now home to dozens of artists and hundreds of students. The original Sterling Enterprises sign had been carefully preserved, but now it shared space with a magnificent mural, a collaborative work by Aurora and Kate that incorporated elements from Claire's most meaningful paintings. Aurora stood in what had once been her grandfather's office, now transformed into a sun-filled studio where she taught weekend classes for children in the Foundation's programs. The old corporate furniture had been replaced with easels and work tables, but one wall remained exactly as it had been, covered in dark wooden panels that had witnessed decades of business decisions. "Ready for the surprise?" Alexander asked, entering with Gerald and Kate. Aurora nodded eagerly. They had been planning this moment for weeks. With careful movements, Gerald pressed a hidden latch, and the wooden panels slid aside to reveal a wall of windows that had been covered for over 40 years. Windows that looked out over the exact view Claire had captured in her very first watercolor of the city. "Oh," Aurora breathed, moving to stand where her mother must have stood all those years ago. "It's perfect." "There's more," Kate said, bringing forward a portfolio she'd been carrying. "I found these in the university archives. They're your mother's submission pieces for her scholarship application." The portfolio contained a series of sketches and paintings Aurora had never seen before. Each one captured a moment of transformation, a caterpillar emerging from its chrysalis, a seed sprouting through concrete, a sunrise breaking through storm clouds. "She always looked for moments of change," Kate explained, "moments when something new and beautiful was emerging from something old or difficult." "Like now," Aurora said softly, looking around the studio. "This place used to be about money and power. Now it's about creativity and healing." Gerald cleared his throat. "There's something else you should see." He led them to a small room adjacent to the studio. Inside, protected by museum-quality glass, hung Claire's painting of young Gerald, with his father, the peace offering that had never been delivered. But it wasn't alone. Surrounding it were photographs and news clippings documenting the Sterling family's journey, including recent articles about the Foundation's work and the art therapy program's success. "I wanted to show the whole story," Gerald explained. "Not just our past mistakes, but how your mother's art helped us find a better way forward." Aurora studied the display thoughtfully. "It needs one more thing," she decided. Hurrying back to her studio, she returned with her latest painting. A portrait of the three of them reading Claire's diary together, the one she'd shown Gerald on that first evening. "Perfect," Alexander said as they hung it alongside the others. "Past, present, and future all together." A knock at the door interrupted them. One of Aurora's students, a 12-year-old girl whose mother was receiving cancer treatment through the Foundation, stood there holding a canvas. "Sorry to interrupt," she said shyly, "but I wanted to show Aurora my finished painting before the opening ceremony." The girl's artwork showed a circle of people, patients, doctors, artists, and children, all connected by flowing ribbons of color that seemed to dance between them. "It's beautiful, Sarah," Aurora said warmly. "Tell me about the colors you chose." As Sarah explained her artistic decisions with growing confidence, Alexander watched his daughter in her element, teaching, encouraging, carrying forward Claire's gift for seeing and nurturing the beauty in others. The formal opening ceremony would begin soon. Donors, arts patrons, and families served by the Foundation would fill the halls. There would be speeches and ribbon cuttings, but this quiet moment felt like the real celebration. 4 generations of artists and dreamers connected by love and color and the courage to transform pain into beauty. Through the newly revealed windows, the Seattle sky was putting on a spectacular show, painted in the exact shades Claire had captured in her first watercolor. It was as if she was adding her own brushstrokes to this moment of healing and new beginnings. At the end of the opening ceremony, after the crowds had thinned and the evening light painted long shadows across the studio floors, Aurora sat in her favorite spot by the windows. She held Claire's diary in her lap, open to its final pages. "I've been saving these," she told Alexander and Gerald as they joined her. "I wanted to wait until today." The last entry was dated just weeks before Claire's final hospital admission. The handwriting was shakier but still determined. "My dearest Aurora, you're 10 years old now, growing more beautiful and strong each day. Your grandmother tells me you've started drawing. Simple sketches in your school notebooks, just like I used to do. I wish I could teach you about color and light, about how art can say the things our hearts can't find words for. But maybe, somehow, you'll find your way to art on your own. And maybe someday you'll find your way to your father too. When you do, please show him these pages. Tell him that every painting I made, every color I chose, every moment I captured, they were all love letters to the family we should have. And if you're reading this together now, then the most important painting of all has finally been completed. Not with watercolors or brushes, but with forgiveness and understanding and the kind of love that survives even the darkest times. Keep painting, my darling girl. Keep finding beauty in unexpected places. Keep telling stories that heal and transform. And know that wherever you are, whatever you create, my love colors every canvas. All my heart, Mom. Aurora closed the diary gently, then reached for her sketchbook. "I've been working on something," she said. "A series of paintings for the children's wing at the hospital. But instead of just hanging art on the walls, I want to create a kind of scavenger hunt." She showed them her sketches, a series of interconnected murals that would lead children through a story of hope and healing, with interactive elements where they could add their own artistic touches. "Each child can contribute to the story," she explained. "So they're not just looking at art, they're part of it. They're helping create something beautiful even during difficult times." "Just like your mother did," Alexander said softly. "Just like we all can," Gerald added. Aurora nodded, adding a final touch of color to her sketch. "Mom wrote that art isn't just about what we see. It's about what we feel, what we dream, what we hope to leave behind. I think that's what this whole year has been about. Not just finding each other, but finding ways to share her gift with others." Through the windows of what had once been Seattle's first Sterling Enterprises office, now transformed into the Claire Chen Center for the Arts, the city sparkled in the evening light. Somewhere out there, other families were facing their own challenges, their own moments of loss and possibility. But here, in this space, reimagined through love and art, new stories were already beginning. Stories of healing, of connection, of beauty found in unexpected places. Stories painted not just in watercolors, but in the countless small moments of understanding and forgiveness that had brought 3 generations back together. And watching over it all, living